Hi, I'm Lisa Bardot, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to draw this cute little ghost in Procreate, and I'll be showing you this really cool vintage press printing effect that you can use in a lot of other Procreate artwork as well. You'll also be learning a lot about how to use layers, clipping masks, a really cool technique for drawing fabric, and much more. For this tutorial, you can join in with whatever brushes you have, but I will be using brushes from my Gouache Paintbox and from my Texture Maker brush sets. You can find those at bardotbrush.com. And if you're new to Procreate, I recommend watching my Procreate for Beginners tutorial so you can learn all the basics. And of course, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss any of my future tutorials. Let's get started. Let's begin by creating a new canvas. Tap the plus sign in the upper right corner. I'm going to be using a vertically oriented canvas today, and the size I'll use is 2800 by 3500 pixels. For my sketch, I'm going to be using the sketching pencil from my pencil box brush set, but you can use whatever pencil brush you like for sketching. I'll start by drawing a circular shape at the top, and that's going to represent like the top of the ghost. And then I'll draw a line straight down just to give me the overall length of this shape. And at the bottom, I'm going to draw kind of a curved line representing the bottom. And then from there, I'm just going to fill in the edges to create kind of like a bell shape. It's our little ghost. Now I'm going to define where the folds of the fabric are. So here at the bottom, I'm just going to draw some little scallops, kind of different sizes. They don't all have to be the same width. So that's what I'm doing there. And then from the edges of these little scallops, I'm going to draw some lines going up. And they kind of do converge, where it's in between the two scallops. So let me do this one as well. Kind of like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. Maybe I'll give this one a little bit more room like that. A little wonky, but don't worry about that. I'm just going to define the edge of that one just a little bit. And then on either side here, I'm going to just draw some more like little bits of fabric kind of sticking out of the side. So like a little, kind of little pizza shapes coming off the side. So this is very rough looking. So let's go ahead and make a more refined sketch. I'm going to go up to my layers. I'm going to tap the little N on that layer. And then I'm going to reduce the opacity of what we just drew. Then I will tap the plus sign and create a new layer so we can make a refined sketch. And now I'm just going to go around and just kind of clean this up a little bit. So I'm following this first line down and then the edge of my little scallop shape, drawing the line up, and then I'm skipping over right here. Come back to that in a sec. Draw a little scallop shape there. Do that one. And then this last one over here. And then that's going to be the edge of my ghost. And then here in the in-between, we're going to draw a scallop that kind of goes the other way, like a little arch. Like that. And then don't forget these pieces here on the side. And there we go. And this is going to give us the impression that there's like folds within the fabric. It's kind of like wavy, and we'll add some shading to make it look really nice as well. You can go ahead and sketch in some eyes if you want. There we go. So we're all done with our sketch, so we are ready to start coloring. I'm going to go up to my layers, and I'm going to reduce the opacity of this layer that we just did. So reduce the opacity of layer 2. And I'm just going to turn off visibility of layer 1 because we don't need that anymore. Okay, let's set a background color. I'm going to go to the background colors, and I'm going to choose a nice, rich orange for my background. And then I'm going to go over to my colors, and the color that I'm going to choose for the ghost, of course, is white. So if I double tap close to white, it's going to snap to a pure white value. So double tap to choose white. And then I'm going to go over to my brushes, and I'm going to be using brushes from my Gouache Paintbox. You can use whatever brushes you want, but I really think the gouache has this nice painterly style that lends itself well to the vintage effect we're going to be doing later. So that's what I'm going to be using. The brush I'm using right now is called Painty Round. And then finally, I need to create a new layer to start coloring my ghost. So I'm going to create a new layer by hitting the plus sign, and then I'm going to move that layer below my sketch layer. So the sketch is on top. All right. So let me go ahead and I'm going to be tracing the outside of my ghost shape. and then filling it in with color. And for these little bottoms here, I like to get the corners as sharp as I can. So I'm just kind of using light pressure near those corners. And I'm going to fill that in. I'm kind of doing like the outward facing scallops of the fabric, and then I'm going to come back and do the inside just like I did in my sketch. And I'm not drawing it all the way because, again, I'm just trying to get like an outline right now. And then now I'll go back and connect all my lines like that. Do this piece over here. And then I can finish the entire shape. Okay, I think that's pretty good. All right, and now I can use color drop to fill this shape. So I'm just gonna drag this circle and drop it in. And if this happens and the color spills everywhere, you just need to adjust your color drop threshold. So let me undo that with a 2-finger tap. I'm gonna drag that circle in again, but don't lift my pencil up. And now if I slide my pencil to the left, it'll adjust how much it fills in the shape. So I just need to go to the left a little bit and it fills it in nice and completely. And this is a textured brush, so you still might get some, spots where you need to color it in a little bit, like here. So just kind of pay attention to that. Whenever you're using a textured brush that has like a textured edge, you might need to fill it in a little bit if color drop doesn't quite fill in all the gaps. But I think that looks pretty good. All right, so we've got our cute little ghost, and now we're gonna start to add some shading so we can define these little folds. So let's go up to our layers, and I'm gonna create a new layer. This layer is right above the layer with the white shape. And this layer, we're actually gonna use a clipping mask. So if I tap the layer, I'm gonna tap here in this menu where it says clipping mask. And that means that everything that I draw on this new layer will only be visible if it's inside this shape. And now I'm going to choose like a gray. So I'm just kind of going down on the little color disc and choosing a gray. And we're still using our Painty Round brush. And all I'm going to do is going to color the inside of these folds like this. I'm going to kind of come in right on the edge here. So right there. It doesn't totally matter what it looks like here at the top. You just want to get your edges, make sure it lines up with this corner here. Kind of like that. Again, it doesn't really matter what it looks like up at the top. I'm going to do one here, kind of filling in this inner fold. There we go. Color that in. Over there. And then I'm going to color in this entire side of this one here. So you can see that I'm coloring like over the edge and it's not, going out the edge, and that's because I'm using a clipping mask. I'll do this here. Okay. And then at this point, I'm going to go back to my layers and turn my sketch off so that I can really see if I've, these lines line up. Like right here, this gray doesn't quite line up with the edge here. So I'm just going to maybe reduce my brush size and color that in a little bit better like that. And I'm just checking them all. That one looks pretty good. This one kind of went over there, so I'm going to erase. Oops. Make sure I'm using the same brush as my eraser. And just kind of erase that a little bit. Looks good. Oops, right here needs a little erasing. And I think that side looks good, although this edge looks a little funky, so I'm going to paint in maybe a little bit more so it's like a cleaner edge. Okay, so this doesn't look that great yet, but bear with me. It's going to look good in just a minute. We're going to change colors of our paintbrush now. So I'm going to go to my colors and I'm going to choose white again. And we're going to use the same brush, but I'm going to reduce the opacity. I'm at about like 50%. Okay, so now this will slowly build up in color because we reduced the opacity, which is what we want to do to kind of define these folds. So we're going to, I got my brush size to about halfway. Might want to go a little bit bigger. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just like do a bunch of strokes like this to kind of make sort of like a gradient effect towards the edges, if that makes sense. So that it kind of falls off towards the middle of the fold. And also, like, I'm kind of painting away that top edge there. So I'm using lots of strokes and layering them on. I'll do that again here. Lots of strokes again to kind of paint away the center of it and then have it kind of like fall off near the edges. Do this one here. Oops, maybe a little smaller with my brush size. Again, lots of little strokes to kind of just paint away part of it. It's looking really good. And then here on these edge pieces, I'm gonna do the same thing, but I'm gonna kind of paint away half of it and leaving like a little dark spot towards the fold, like where it connects. If that makes sense. And then here at the top, we'll kind of erase most of that away. There we go. And then same thing on this side, using lots of strokes to kind of slowly paint that away so I get this nice kind of gradient effect happening. Okay, there we go. So now we have some really nice folds happening there that I think look really, really good. And you're starting to see this look like kind of like a ghost or like a ghost costume, you know, like a little sheet that's over a person. So that looks really good. Let's go ahead and add some eyeballs. We can go ahead and just do that on the same layer. So let's go ahead and choose black as our color. And I'm gonna make my brush opacity all the way back up again. So make sure to change your slider, maybe a smaller brush size. And I did draw these on my sketch, but I'm just gonna freehand them now. So just a couple eyes. You can do a mouth and other stuff too, but I think it's cute with just 2 little eyes. So let's work on the background a little bit. This is it for the ghost, very simple. Let's add some background texture and then a little bit of a drop shadow. So I'm gonna go back to my layers and I'm gonna create a layer that is right above the background color. So I'm tapping the bottommost layer, which is just that rough sketch. And now I have a layer that's below all my other layers. And for my color, I'm gonna just choose a nice yellow, nice bright yellow. And I'm gonna be adding some texture now. So I'm gonna go to my brush set that I have, which has a bunch of fun textures. It's called Texture Maker. And there's a really cool brush called Texture Press Fine. So Press Fine, it has this nice press printed kind of texture. And then on this layer, I'm just gonna maybe I'll make my brush size a little smaller. I'm just gonna lightly paint in just a little bit of texture here and there. So it's not just like a flat, you know, orange. So it has a little bit of texture. It has this nice kind of press printed effect. And then we're gonna add a little bit of drop shadow to make it look like our ghost is floating. So let's go ahead and create another new layer. So this layer is right above that yellow texture that I just added. And the brush I'm going to be using for my drop shadow is going to be from my Gouache Paintbox. I'm going to use the Soft Gouache Grain brush. And then for the color, let's actually just sample the orange that we have as the background. And then I'm going to make that a little darker and also a little more red, a little more saturated, I guess you would say. I like to make my darker oranges go towards the red. And then my opacity is turned down just a little bit so I can kind of build up in intensity of the color and stuff. So all I'm going to do is down here underneath the ghost, I'm just going to draw kind of like an oval like that. And this, as long as it's not like touching the ghost, it's going to give it this effect like he's levitating and like floating up above everything. So I'll just start with an oval like that. And then I'm going to get a little bit darker, a little bit redder, because I want it to be darker in the center. So it looks like the shadow kind of falls off. Maybe go even darker than that. A little darker, a little redder. So it's darker in the center there. Kind of like that. And you can always use the eraser to erase some of the edges if you want it to be a softer shadow. So if you tap and hold the eraser icon, it'll select that same brush as your eraser and you can kind of, you know, erase parts of it away to make it softer if you want. And I think it's a little crooked. So I'm going to use the transform tool, which is this little arrow here, to just kind of straighten it out there. Okay. So we've got a little shadow, so it looks like our ghost is floating in the air. And the other thing I want to do is maybe we'll add like a little moon or something to put some more stuff on the background. So I'm going to create a layer that's above everything else. I'm going to choose a nice yellow for my moon. And we can just use the same Painty Round brush. So let's go ahead and draw the moon. So to do that, we're going to use a really cool feature called Quick Shape. So what you're going to do is you're going to draw kind of a circular shape, and then don't lift your pencil up off the screen. And then take another finger and hold it down somewhere else on the screen, and that will pop to like this perfect circle. And then you can let go. And up here, it's going to say Edit Shape. And you can tap Edit Shape, and you can make it bigger or smaller. You can move it around, adjust it however you want. And then we're going to use Color Drop to fill that in. So I'm just going to drag, drop that in. And then to make it like a crescent shape, we're going to use Quick Shape again, but we'll do it with the eraser. So we're going to tap and hold the eraser so we can choose that same Painty Round brush as our eraser. And then we're going to draw another circle with our eraser. And again, don't let go. And you'll see it's going to pop to this Quick Shape feature. Put a finger down on the screen. And then you can tap Edit Shape. And you can see this is what's going to be the crescent here. So just kind of put it wherever you want it to be. And then you can grab your eraser and just erase away the rest. And you have this beautiful crescent shape. So there is our moon. And then I think I'll make it just a little bit smaller, kind of like that. So that's the entire illustration. And I think it's really, really cute. But I think it needs a little bit of something, something. I thought it'd be really cool for this piece to do this really cool vintage printed effect that I've used in a lot of my other work, and I think it'd be fun to show you guys that today. So what we do in order to use this effect is we need to combine all of our layers down onto one layer. And the best way to do that is with the Copy All function. So you take 3 fingers, swipe down on your screen, and then choose Copy All. Okay, that's going to copy everything that's visible. And then I'm going to go up to my layers. I just want to make sure that I have the top layer selected because I want this to be pasted at the top of all the other layers, which I do. So then again, take 3 fingers and swipe down again, and you're going to choose Paste. And as you'll see, we have a new layer now that has all of the other layers combined into one layer. So this is a really quick way to flatten everything, but still retain all of your other layers. Because to add the effect, we need everything to be on one layer. Okay, let's go up to the Adjustments menu, which is this little magic wand icon. And we're going to choose Halftone. And then choose Layer. And we want to make sure we're here on Full Color. And to adjust the effect, all you do is slide your pencil across the screen. If you go really big, it's going to make it really big, which we don't want. I think like 5% is probably about good. I don't like it to be too intense because then it doesn't really sell the effect very well. So about 5% or so is good. Just so it's just kind of barely visible. You can barely see the dots. If I zoom in, you'll see them a little bit more, but you don't need them to be like super big. And then we're going to do one more effect, and that is under the Adjustments menu again. And it's Chromatic Aberration. So right here, Chromatic Aberration, and then again, choose Layer. That will apply the effect to the whole layer. And then you're going to want to choose Displace down here at the bottom. And what this does is it displaces, it kind of like separates these out into like color layers, so to speak. So if you move your pencil across the screen, you'll see that, which is what we want, but we don't want it to be so intense like that. So I'm going to zoom into like the eyes, and I'm going to just line it back up so that it's back to the way it was. And then I just want it to be just a little offset so that you can just see like a little bit of that offset. So this kind of represents like when you have a printer that the registration is a little bit off with like as some old printers would be, and not everything lines up perfectly. This kind of has that effect. And it's very subtle, but I think it adds a really nice effect. So you don't want it to be, too much off, or else it just won't look as good. So there we go. And then you can just tap there. And as you can see, this has a really cool effect, and it adds a lot of texture and dimension and this kind of vintagey quality. In fact, if you go up to your layers, you can just uncheck the box of the, copy all pasted layer and see what the before and after looks like. And I think it just adds something really, really nice. And I actually use this effect on a lot of my pieces. It's just kind of like, I don't know, if something just needs a little bit of extra something, this is a really cool effect to add to it. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I'm Lisa Bardot, and I help people find their creativity through drawing on the iPad. If you'd like to support me, I hope you'll check out my premium brush sets that inspire creativity at bardotbrush.com. And if you're sharing your works to Instagram, I would love to see it. Use the hashtag BardotBrush. Thanks, and happy art making! If you like this video, please subscribe for more awesome tutorials, and check out one of my other videos. Have a great day!